Hey, what's going on, weavers? Tim here again, and in today's video we will be making a square monkey's fist. Well, technically it's a cube, but you know what I mean. So as opposed to the usual monkey's fist that has a round core, this one has a square or rather cube core, so just a different take on a classic paracord project. We're going to be making two different examples, a smaller keychain version and a larger one that is, well, for, I don't know, we'll discuss that in the video. So that being said, let's get into it. In terms of materials, I've got my usual 550 paracord, and as for the cores, I'm using dice. You can use wood or anything else that's cube-like for the core, but I'm using dice as they're easily accessible and you don't need any special tools or whatnot to cut them to size, unlike, let's say, a block of wood. Also, if you want to make a larger one, you'll need some super glue. We're going to start with the smaller monkey's fist. This die I'm using is 3/4 of an inch or 19 millimeters in terms of length, width, and height. First, I'm going to measure out about perhaps 1.5 feet of paracord, and then I'm going to start by putting the die in between my index and middle finger. And then I'm going to start wrapping my first set of passes around my fingers and the die. It's going to take 5 passes, and I'm wrapping around my fingers away from me. Once I've made my 5 passes, I'm going to make a 90-degree turn, and I'm going to start wrapping 5 passes horizontally, going perpendicular to the first set. Make your way up the core and keep those strands neatly stacked. After I've made my way to the top, I'm going to switch directions one last time. I'm going to remove my fingers from the passes, and now I can do the final set, going through the top and bottom gaps above and below the core. So just do this last set of 5 passes. Now with that done, I'm going to start cinching the excess slack out of the monkey's fist. I'm actually going to start with the slack out of the first set of passes we made. And then from there, I'm going to work the rest of the slack out the terminal ends. If you aren't familiar with the process of cinching the slack out of a monkey's fist, please watch my dedicated video for that. Once we've gotten the monkey's fist tightened up, we can finish it into a keychain by adding a split ring. I'm going to gather both terminal ends. I'm going to put the right strand through the front of the split ring and the left strand through the back of the split ring. From there, I'm just going to start by tying a cobra knot by passing the right side strand over the core and then the left over that and behind the core and out the crook on the right. I'm going to repeat the same process over and over, leading with the same strand, and tie my way down the core. If you want to see some other ways of finishing a monkey's fist, you can check out my video on that as well. Now that I've tied my way down, I'm going to clip the excess cord and simply melt it with my lighter. Once that's done, we have a nice little square monkey's fist keychain. And before you say it, I know what you're thinking. Well, Tim, that doesn't really look that square or cube-like. Well, let me tell you, we can get even more squarer. So for the large square monkey's fist, we're going to work with the same dice from before, but this time I've got 8 of them and I'm going to super glue them into a larger cube. Quite a simple process, just make sure you do your best to line up the edges of the die so that the cube is nice and square. With that done now, I'm just going to use this as my monkey's fist core. Now I chose to do 10 passes, but the corners are peeking out a little, so if that bothers you, just do 11 passes. The hardest part here is getting the cube to sit in the jig without falling out, so I've carefully placed it in between the guide rods and it's very gingerly just sitting there, but once you get the first set of passes around, it's not so bad and it will stay in place. So I'm just going to start by wrapping my paracord around the guide rods and the core, and I'm wrapping my passes clockwise going away from me, and as mentioned, I'm doing 10 passes. Keep them nice and neatly stacked as usual. And notice how I'm going to check the actual number of passes I have, and I sort of removed that first half pass on the front where the beginning terminal end was sitting, just to make sure I have 10 passes going across. So again, do the same, wrap your 10 passes across the middle of the core in between those guide rods. And now for the last set of passes, I'm going to get my end on a fid, go around the core perpendicular to the second set of passes, going under and around the first set of passes. Once again, doing 10 passes and maintaining those loops neatly. This is the part where you might get cords overlapping, so watch out for that. So I'm getting close to finishing, and it's getting a little crowded on my jig, and this does tend to happen when you use a jig. So to finish the last pass, I'm just going to remove the whole thing from the jig and do the last pass by simply holding the monkey's fist. And then I'm going to quickly ensure that I have 10 even passes all the way around the monkey's fist. Once that's done, we tighten the monkey's fist and cinch all the excess out. And once tightened, you can finish this monkey's fist however you like. I left a couple of feet on the tails, and I'm simply going to tie some cobra knots going down the core. So by doing this, I'm adding a handle with these cobra knots, but to be honest, I don't think this monkey's fist cube would make a great impact tool, as it's a bit too light and the center is not hefty enough. However, it's also too large to be a keychain, but you could always hang it from, say, your rear view mirror or whatnot if you drive around, but this is just another option. You can also figure out what you want to do with it for your own needs. And I'm not exactly sure what this is. But you know what? As my favorite painter has said, let's be bold. And I'm going to cut off the ends and just snip and melt them where they are. And now we simply have a monkey's fist cube that makes a great desk decoration and can also double as a paperweight. So there you have it, folks, a square, or rather cube, monkey's fist. Just another paracord project you can add to your toolbox, and of course feel free to expand upon what you've learned here and make something unique and your own. So I know we jogged through the larger monkey's fist tutorial a little bit, but I do have a dedicated tutorial on that and many other videos on monkey's fists, so you can check those out if this one was not clear enough. That being said, a huge thank you to all my Patreon supporters. If you want access to exclusive tutorials as well as our Discord server, feel free to check out my Patreon page. Link in the video cards as well as down below. You can join for as little as $3 a month. You can also support this channel by liking the video and commenting. Also, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out what I have to offer on the rest of my channel.